I warned the silly old git.
You did?
Well, if you're going to send a container load of antiques to London, you don't advertise the fact to the local population, am I right?
Yeah, you're right. So apart from the Colonel being a silly old git, is there anything else I should know about him?
His ancestor founded Mount Thomas and he's born to rule. God bless the squire and all his relations and keep us in our proper stations.
Nice place.
Hey, Paige.
Hello. How you going?
Good.
You met Maggie Doyle?
Yeah, I've seen you around. Lionel Wicks, I'm the manager here.
Nice to meet you.
Right, so Lionel, the container truck was where?
Over here, mate.
Driving a rig like that away would make a lot of noise. Anyone hear it?
Well, Colonel's a bit deaf, you see. He was in artillery during the second big one.
You live on the property yourself, Lionel?
Yeah, normally. Me and my wife have got the flat out the back. But last night we were out visiting family, a death.
What is it, Lionel?
Please, sir.
And show them in. You were the one who told me to keep it under wraps.
Well, just till you got the antiques out of the country, so yes.
Thought you had a damn hide. Turns out you were right.
Well, if you use professionals...
If I'd used professionals, they'd have rushed me. I like to do things in my own way in my own time. Do sit down. Hasham. Now, what county in England do the Hashams come from?
the county of Beirut, sir. The name's Lebanese.
I was in the Middle East during the war. Saw something of Beirut. Pretty place.
Ah, very pretty one, sir, yes.
And Doyle. Ireland, of course.
I come from Australia, so...
We were wondering if you heard the truck drive away.
If I'd heard anything, I'd been out there with a gun, wouldn't I?
Well, I'd hope not, sir.
Deaf as a post. Barrage at El Alamein, sort of that. I woke about 3 o'clock. Had the impression someone had shaken the bed, rattled the window, something like that. I thought, stupid old goat imagining things. Went back to sleep.
You got the vibrations?
What?
The vibrations of the truck. Colonel, would you have the details there, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. How's it going?
Getting there, you know.
Must be interesting working for the Colonel.
He's okay once you get to know him. I used to work here when I was a kid. Then I was with his son in Vietnam.
Oh, so there's a son.
There was. Harry Thomas was chopped. I was with him when it happened. That's why the old man set up the foundation.
So that's why he's selling off the antiques?
Yeah, so as the kids of the district can have some sort of education. Kind of in memory of his son, you know?
It's sad, really, that the old man's the last of his line.
Yeah. I imagine that's the way it's seen.
Mount Thomas 508 to VKC.
Go ahead, 508.
Can all units keep an eye out for a red Louisville semi-trailer, 76 model, carrying a container of antiques. Vic Reg, Foxtrot, Mike, Papa, 217. PJG24, I've got the details, and Erwin's got a plane in the area.
Right. Thanks, Max.
Thank you. You must be Lionel's wife.
Jenny.
Constable Doyle. Lionel was saying that you were both away from the homestead last night.
We were staying with relatives in Mount Thomas.
Thank you.
Lionel's grandfather had just died.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You stayed in Mount Thomas overnight?
Yes.
That's so close.
Well, Lionel's grandfather died.
Thank you, Jenny. The Weekses are very strong family people. Pity there's not more like them.
Lionel and Jenny spend the night in Mount Thomas when they could be home in 20 minutes now. The same night, a container load of antiques goes missing. It's a bit convenient.
Well, when Grandpa Doyle died, everybody stayed with Grandma Doyle.
Yes, but you're all Irish peasants, Mags. You do that.
OK, well, what about Grandpa Hasham?
Yeah, and we're all Lebanese peasants, but they are Anglos.
Oh, for God's sake, PJ, Anglos do have feelings.
No way, they just plant the old guy and go home.
Oh, pathetic.
No, Maggie, just a deep knowledge of human nature.
VKC to Mount Thomas 508.
508 to VKC.
Switch to back channel 7, please, 508.
Yeah, PJ, Airwing reports a container truck in some bush near a shearing shed about half a click from the Thomas homestead.
Roger.
Nick and Wayne have gone to secure the scene.
Thanks, Adam.
Righto.
I'm up at the hospital getting this dressed. If my daughter calls, tell her where I am so she'll get off my back. Anything important, you can contact me there.
Boss, I know it's not my place, but aren't you supposed to be on sick leave?
You're absolutely right, Cooper. It's not your place.
Oh, yeah? Someone's done that before. I could give you 10 kids at the local high school. They teach it in technics nowadays, I believe.
Didn't get far, eh?
Nah, it didn't take much by the look of it. They could have been disturbed, I suppose. Kids, maybe. I mean, we're still on the Thomas property, aren't we?
This is still the Colonel's land, yeah.
All the chests numbered like this, Lionel?
I'll show you. Colonel likes things organised.
Yeah, doesn't he ever? Listed everything down to the teaspoons. Except for this one. Chest 23. Small assorted items. What was in chest 23, Lionel? See, every other chest's got a page, page and a half of detail, but chest 23's just got small assorted items.
PJ, found this under some wrapping.
Prompt your memory, mate?
Could have been a few things like that, yeah.
Or didn't you help pack it?
Glass jar, maybe.
Glass jar. What else, Lionel?
Oh, I'm sorry, mate. You'll have to ask the Colonel that.
Any amount of things.
Colonel, you're sending stuff to London to be auctioned. Now, it's got to be valuable. It wouldn't be worth your while. Your manifest is extremely detailed, but vague on chest 23.
Chest 23 just had bits and pieces.
Including Aboriginal artifacts?
There were some blackfellow curios, yes.
Collected last century? Sir, there's laws about the sale and export of Aboriginal relics. You must be aware of that.
Crate 23 contains some blackfellow curios collected by my ancestors last century and owned by my family ever since.
Sir, Lionel mentioned something about a jar.
The jar contained my great-great-grandfather's head.
Your great-great-grandfather's head is in a jar?
Oh, not his own head. We're not savages. The head he took from the other fella. My great-great-grandfather was an army surveyor. First person ever to see all this.
So no one lived here?
First white man. Surveyed it all for the Crown. When his regiment went home, he resigned his commission and came here with his sheep, 3 convict servants. Eventually brought his wife and children out to join him. Hard to believe it now. There was war here then. The local tribe resisted. Killed sheep and a few convicts. Naturally, he had to put a stop to that. Dirty little war.
Now, sir, what about the head in the jar?
Mark of respect, in a way. The chap was a warrior. After most of his people died.
Died? How?
Typical policeman's question, if I may say so. After most of his people died, this chap kept on fighting for years. Senseless, really, but admirable in its way. My great-great-grandfather finally shot him and preserved his head.
He what?
Preserved his head in brine as a memento. My dear, it was something people did then.
And you, sir, you were planning on selling this, memento?
For a good cause. Like an Egyptian mummy or... My dear young lady, people such as yourself have this country only because of men like my great-great-grandfather.
Yes. Yes, you're probably quite right, sir.
Mags was really impressed.
Well, it's disgusting. That family's had that man's head in a jar for about 150 years.
That's sensitive with it.
Oh, yeah, sensitive.
It's been in the cupboard for most of the century. Apparently the Colonel's grandma didn't like looking at it during dinner.
You reckon these people are for real?
Look, it was a really rough place in the early days, and yes, people took these little souvenirs.
Well, surely you don't agree with it.
If he did it today, I'd arrest him. But the offender's been dead and out of my jurisdiction for a very long time. So, what have we got?
A stolen rig and some missing Aboriginal relics.
And the Colonel who's been keeping human remains. We are going to arrest him for that, aren't we? Oh, and there's that old wooden thing, whatever it is. He was trying to export it. It's got to be illegal.
Boss, whatever we do, we're going to cop it from the bleeding hearts.
Oh, meaning me.
One false step, Mags, and we're going to have the TV news down here like flies. You know that?
Not that you'd know the difference.
PJ's right. We put 1 foot out of place, we'll be right up the creek.
So we need an expert.
Well, we had that sacred site hoo-ha up at Sandy Creek about 5 years back. They sent out an inspector then. I'll try and get hold of her. In the meantime, you investigate the theft of this container truck.
So you reckon it was stolen?
Colonel thinks so.
Well, someone moved it, but it never left the Thomas property.
Thieves don't move your house off your property either. We still call it burglary. And there was some stuff missing from that case.
Stuff that the Thomas family stole in the first place, Wayne.
Doyle, PJ, here.
Look, boss, if we pursue the moving of the container truck and the fact that some of the Thomas family's charming little souvenirs have gone missing, we could be looking at a suspect we have a lot of sympathy for.
What's sympathy got to do with whether or not a crime's been committed?
Nothing.
You think it was local Aborigines?
I don't know.
Well, everyone else is thinking it. Why not you?
Because it could have been white activists.
Or boomerang thieves.
Yes, if the artefacts were valuable enough.
All right, Doyle, I have to ask you whether in this particular case you might have some difficulty in keeping the oath you swore to uphold the law.
Boss, you know that I'll do my job.
OK. Then you can take her with you when you go to check the Weeks' alibis.
Hey, what are you getting at?
Do you not intend to check their alibis?
Yeah, of course. So they were at Lionel's cousin's place, Mrs. Nancy Lachlan.
That's right, nice lady. Nancy Thomas, that was.
Nancy Thomas, related to the Colonel.
I understand so, yes.
But he's supposed to be the last of his line.
Just check it.
Yes?
Hello, I'm Senior Detective Hasham. This is Constable Doyle. I'd like to speak to Mrs. Lachlan, please.
I'm Mrs. Lachlan.
Mrs. Nancy Lachlan?
That's me.
Used to be Nancy Thomas.
Who's been talking? That Tom Croydon, I bet.
You're Lionel Weeks' cousin?
I've got family inside. We can talk around the back. What's this about Lionel? I hope he's not in any trouble.
Well, he says he was here last night, Mrs. Lachlan. He and Jenny?
We understand that your grandfather passed away.
We've got sorry business going on. Jenny and Lionel were here all night last night.
Right. Who else was here?
Myself, my children, uncles, aunties, cousins. It's sorry time.
Now, Jenny and Lionel both work for Colonel Thomas. Is it true that you're related to him?
That Tom Croydon, he just talks and he talks, doesn't he?
Well, you could have told us, boss.
Told you what?
That Lionel's cousin's Aboriginal.
I was leaving that to your deductive powers.
Well, that means Lionel's Aboriginal too.
Yes.
So he and Jenny are obvious suspects.
But their alibi's checked.
Max, a family alibi. Look, my parents would have alibied me for the St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Boss, you told us that they were related to the Colonel.
I didn't say any such thing. I said I understood they were. Look, the story is that the original Thomas used to breed his own stockmen, grab women from the local tribe. Well, surely I don't have to draw your pictures for you.
No, I think he's talking about aggravated sexual assault here, Maggie.
Whatever the truth of it is, there are a lot of Black Thomases in the area. Mount Thomas and Davis, Widgery, Sandy Creek. Dozens of Black Thomases.
So when the Colonel says that he's the last of the line, what are you saying?
He means he's the last white one.
All right, we'll need to get a formal statement from Mrs. Lachlan.
Yeah, look, I doubt you're going to get any more from her.
Speak to the rest of the family too. And check around town, see if there's any troublemakers, eh?
You know, it could have been someone after the antiques.
Why didn't they take them?
I don't know.
How are you?
Okay.
How are you?
Mags, just ran into a bloke delivering this for you.
Does it squirt ink?
Oh, come on, I just did you a favour. Here, take it.
Is there a card?
You had a boyfriend or something, eh?
I've had a few dates.
Really? So what?
When are you guys going to grow up?
I met a green beret who kept a real one of these in his quarters. Bloody Yankee psychopath.
Anyone home?
Get rid of that thing quickly. Mr. Ed, nice to see you again.
Sergeant Croydon, something about artefacts, was it?
Yeah.
I assume that's not one of them? Very nice. This is beautiful work. It's a fighting shield. I'd say from this incising, it's almost certainly local. Haven't seen too many of these outside museums.
Well, the Colonel says it was collected by his great-great-grandfather.
Well, it looks old enough. 30s, 40s?
Who'd steal a thing like this?
Lots of people. Some of them quite respectable. Colonel Thomas's ancestors, for instance. That warrior, the one whose head he took. I know the story. Is that what the joke was about?
I'll deal with that later.
The Colonel says that the head and some of the other stuff dates back to when there was a war going on between the white settlers and... And our mob? Yeah, well, if it dates back to the land wars, that would make it 150, 160 years old.
Valuable?
Oh, yes, museum quality. Could someone export it, sell it? No, not without government permission. And these days, that permission wouldn't be forthcoming.
And if he applied for permission?
Well, the situation would be assessed. The object may be returned to a museum, but if it was a sacred object, it could be returned to its traditional owners. And what about the head in the jar? You need a permit to keep human remains. And these days, that permit wouldn't be issued. What else has the Colonel got out there? Well, the only other things we saw were some stones. They're not sure, but they look like some sort of stone axe head. What colour stone? Greenish. Old? Oh, I'm not sure, but could they be valuable? Tell you when I see them.
Are you suggesting you go out there?
Advising, yes. There may be other artefacts in the container. He may still be intending to export significant portable relics. There may be human remains. Don't know till we look, do we?
That would require a warrant.
And my advice is for you to ask for one.
Very well, Miss Drew, since you advise me.
Is the Imperial still a good place to stay?
Oh, yeah, they do a great breakfast.
I'll see if they've got a room then, while you fix that warrant.
If I'd known, we could have arranged it for you. Because what last time you stayed with family.
Oh, that's not convenient this time.
Any repercussions from that joke you two pulled, you do the paperwork, all right?
Boss, you and the Colonel don't get on, do you?
The first Thomas in the district was a military man. The first Croydon was a convict. I don't think they would have got on terribly well, and time hasn't improved things. But that's got nothing to do with it.
No, what I'm saying is the Colonel's a complainant, but we seem to be treating him as the offender.
You're pursuing your inquiries about the theft of the truck?
Yeah.
And I'm taking the advice of an Aboriginal cultural officer who's also an inspector under the state and federal acts. Seems to me we've got both sides very neatly covered.
You could have just put down Jenny and Lionel never left the place. All this stuff about to the best of my knowledge, I know they didn't.
But Mrs. Lachlan, you must have been asleep at some stage.
I'm a very light sleeper. I would have heard.
Oh, OK.
Yeah? Oh, come on in. Take a seat.
Thanks.
The warrant's on its way.
Mrs. Lachlan's out there.
Yeah, she's alibying the Weekses.
Oh.
That's where you stayed last time.
Yes.
Family, you said?
That's right. She's my aunt.
So why aren't you staying there this time?
And there's sorry business on, and the house is full. People have suspicious minds.
Right, so if she's your aunt, that would make you Thomas.
On my mother's side, yes. It's not something I'm very proud of. Old Major Thomas, not exactly an ancestor I'd have chosen for myself.
No, nor me. But, Miss Drew, we're about to execute a search warrant on your advice. Can you assure me you're completely objective in this?
Are you?
I hope so.
Sergeant, why do you think I'm staying down the pub and not with family? I've got to keep arm's length on this one. But after our discussion, I believe we have reason to search. OK, that's it. Bye. Thanks very much.
Well, you have to excuse me for being a bit suspicious.
I wouldn't expect anything different.
But you would tell me if you knew who last night's perpetrators were, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
Well, that doesn't answer my question.
I don't know. It could have been white collectors. It could have been Aborigines. I simply don't know.
And you won't be asking.
No.
And your family won't embarrass you by...
They may have nothing to tell.
It could be payback from the old days, like Thomas's.
We really took our time about it. 150 years.
Were you involved?
No, I wasn't involved. I didn't get to where I am by being stupid, Detective.
Come on, call me PJ.
Why?
No, I'm going to ask you for a drink and... Well, Detective sounds a bit formal, you know?
First you accused me.
No, I had to ask.
And now you want to take me out for a drink?
I just thought you might be thirsty by then, that's all. Is that a yes?
It's hard to imagine what it would have been like back then. You'd have seen smoke from fires, kangaroos, wallabies, big flock of birds. People living down by the water. And then we came.
History of the world, Mags.
Yes. What about this war? There's this place near the river. Old Major Thomas and some of his convict servants caught some of our mob sleeping. Murdered them all. Murdered? They certainly didn't teach it to us like that at school. That's right. You were taught lies.
Hello, all day.
He's over there.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Sergeant.
I'm sorry to disturb you. I've got a warrant here to search your premises.
I beg your pardon.
My people will cause as little disruption as possible.
I want you all off my property until my lawyer has read this.
I'm sorry, sir, but that's not quite the way it works.
You mean you can come in here and search without my permission?
That is the effect of a search warrant, yes, sir.
They're intended for criminals.
No, sir, for suspected criminal activity.
Mate, he better not lose his head now. He might end up in a pickle.
Oh, mate, don't make me laugh.
Schultz, Patterson, the container, you know what we're looking for.
And this young lady is?
Miss Drew, a cultural officer from St David's. She's also an inspector under state and federal acts covering the possession and sale of Aboriginal relics.
You just crossed the line, Sergeant.
I'm not quite sure what you mean, sir. If we could just get this over with.
I'm told they're greenstone axe heads from Mount William. Anthropologist fella came to stay once. Tried to persuade me to give them to the museum.
Yes, I imagine he did.
And indeed, after I die, I well may do so. And not one moment before.
Sergeant, I'm correct in thinking the fighting shield was going to London for auction?
Yes, that's correct.
Colonel, to sell a portable relic like that fighting shield, you need the consent in writing of the Secretary for Planning and Environment.
Since when?
The Act dates back to 1972. Under Section 12 of the Act, Sergeant, I have reasonable grounds for thinking the Colonel's about to commit an offence, and I wish to impound these items pending further investigations and legal proceedings.
She can do this?
Oh, yes, sir, she can.
Then I think it's time we talked with my lawyer.
That will be after we finish the search, won't it, boss?
Yes, Dawn. She's very keen.
A word, Sergeant.
Yes?
In private.
By all means.
Your people found nothing further in the container. I've surrendered the axe heads now. Can we deal with this before my lawyer gets here, before it all goes too far?
I'm not sure what you mean, sir.
This is persecution. You know that, don't you?
It would appear you were intending to break the law.
Laws that didn't exist when my ancestors
Sir,
pioneered
the
this.
law is the law.
You're a country man, grew up here, you agree with me?
While I'm wearing a uniform, I can't have an opinion. Now, could we just get on with this, please?
She's out to get me, and you know why. Oh, you must have heard the rumours. Claims they make about somehow being related to me.
I don't think this is actually getting us...
Well, it's a lie. I will not be interviewed by her, that jumped.
I'd be careful if I was you, sir.
Quoting the law at me. I will not.
This fighting shield was found by Constable Doyle in T-chest number 23 on your property. Now, do you recognise it?
Yes, it belongs to me.
How did you acquire it?
It's belonged to my family for generations. It was collected by my great-great-grandfather in the 1840s.
And why was it in the T-chest?
You have to answer that.
Well, the T-chest was listed on a manifest of the items in the container, which would be sent to London.
Colonel, was the fighting shield to be sent to London for auction?
My client does not wish to
Yes.
open...
That object is my property, and I will dispose of it as I wish.
Miss Drew, the relevant acts are what?
Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Heritage Protection Act of 1984 and the State of Victoria Archaeological and Aboriginal Relics Preservation Act of 1972.
You, aware of those provisions, sir?
No, I am not.
I suggest you should advise your client, then.
I'm advising my client that in the absence of charges to cease answering questions and leave these premises immediately.
What other objects are in the T-chest, sir?
Colonel?
I'm not afraid of their questions. I've done nothing wrong. There was other blackfella stuff in that chest, and it belongs to me, and I have a right to sell what's my own.
The Aboriginal head in the jar?
Yes.
So you admit to having under your control Aboriginal remains?
Don't answer that.
For heaven's sake, man, sit down. Having under my control, I own the thing.
The Act doesn't use the word own when it comes to human remains.
All this has happened because I tried to do the right thing by the youth of Mount Thomas. Sell this old stuff and set up scholarships. Not the past, but the future. Mount Thomas kids getting an education. Now, what can be wrong with that?
Sir, an offence is an offence.
There has been no offence. If I don't own the things, who does? They're legitimate spoils of war, and the enemy no longer exists.
What?
The blacks who own them are no longer there.
Then why do people still call me Abo, and worse?
I'm sorry people have been impolite to you. But the fact is, you're not even full-bloods. It's not the same as it is up north. You people, you're not even half-bloods. 1/4, 8/16, some of you.
It's not a matter of percentages, cousin.
Can we get on with this?
How'd you go down the railway?
Nothing much apart from 20 new ways of saying, I don't know.
Susan hears I gave you that. I'm denying it.
Grab us a beer, MX?
Would anyone else like one?
I'm right, thanks.
Now, Carol, you can make this a lot easier for us.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, by telling us who did it.
I don't know who did it.
21 ways.
Is PJ serious? I mean, does he really believe that I would compromise everything I've built by getting involved in something like that? Look, PJ just thinks it's easier to suspect everyone. Michaela, there was something you said to the Colonel today, that it wasn't a matter of percentages. That percentages argument, that's crap. Maggie, I mean, Aboriginality is about who you are, where you're from. It's lots of things. Like my mum, she's this really strong Aboriginal woman, but she scarcely knew who she was till she was 17. How do you mean? Well, the welfare department stole her when she was 6, put her in a home, trained her to be a servant. It was another 10 years before she found her people. But she was lucky. Some never find out who they are. That's just unbelievable. Happy ending, I guess. Yeah.
Now, I don't want to be difficult to get along with.
But you want to close up.
Yep.
That's okay, Chris. We've got a big day tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.
Night-night. Good night, Adam.
Night.
Night.
See you later.
Hey, listen, you don't need to do that. Why don't you go and get some sleep?
I was hoping you'd come and tuck me in.
Oh, you're hoping that, were you? Adam, Technically, and I won't be repeating this in front of witnesses, but technically I'm old enough to be your mother.
So?
So, it's been great.
Chris, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Look, if any of this gets out, it's not going to do your job any good.
Look, it's nobody else's business.
I've met a lot of police in my time, probably more than you have, and if this gets out, they'll all be saying it's Grab a Granny Week. They will give you such a hard time. They'll accuse me of being a cradle snatcher and...
It'll be jealousy.
Well, that's very nice of you to say so.
Look, Chris, I've been with girls, but I never realised what it was like to be with a woman.
Thank you.
If a guy 45 can get off with a chick my age, why can't I love a woman in her 30s?
Just use the L word, mate.
Sorry.
We don't use that around here, okay?
Okay. But seriously, I mean, if it's okay for guys, why not for women? Or are you giving me the flick because I'm too inexperienced?
Oh, no, love, no, I'm not.
Now, you used the L word.
Yes, but not as a verb.
So what does that mean?
It means that it's been nice, but it's over. You see, we'll just both of us end up being hurt. I can take that for myself, but I can't do that to you. Hey, go on. Off you go and let me get on with this by myself.
What's up? Intruders at the Colonel's place, Aborigines. Reckons they're creating disturbance.
Where were you?
Sorry.
One of the major responsibilities of the watch house keeper is to answer the phone, not divert it to his sergeant's house at 4 in the morning.
Sorry, I had an unexpected social engagement.
It's all right. These are regulation. If it was serious, we'd be wearing flak jackets.
How did you know what I was thinking?
All right. Colonel Thomas reckons some people have lit a fire on a riverbank on his property. He thinks it's Aborigines, but he's not sure. I've asked him to steer clear and meet us out the front of his property. If it is Aborigines, Miss Drew will advise. Any questions? All right, let's go.
Still there? Were 5 minutes ago.
All right. Your people?
Yeah?
What are they doing? They're burying the head.
That'd be my guess.
I want them off my land.
Miss Drew tells me it's a funeral.
They can't just bury people on my property.
We think he's been waiting a very long time.
Come on, Lionel.
Colonel, I am not interrupting a funeral. If you do, I'll arrest you.
I believe you would.
Excuse me, Colonel. Somebody like to explain what's going on?
We buried him where his people died. That's the jar there if you want it.
About the rest of the stuff?
That's it.
Evidence.
There's still the head.
Oh, I wouldn't push that too far if I was you, Colonel.
All right, Lionel. Dig it up. I'm sorry, sir. I can't. That I have to believe that you were in it with them.
No, he wasn't. Nor Jenny. And I should know, I was there.
Mrs. Lachlan, you're not going to try and tell me you hotwired the truck and stole all that stuff?
Not on my own.
Well, who helped you?
Well, looks like you'll have to arrest the lot of us.
Come in here, thanks.
I'll be with you in a moment, sir. Miss Drew, if you could just help make a detailed list of all that stuff, please.
Right, through here, Mrs. Lachlan. Yeah, right through to the interview room. Constable?
We'll be in a moment.
Just grab my book. Thanks.
Hello, Mount Thomas Police, Constable Cooper speaking.
Mrs. Lachlan, now, this is just for the record, but you're an Australian of Aboriginal descent?
Well, I think so. Don't you?
Well, take that as a yes.
Is he your boyfriend?
No, he's not, Mrs. Lachlan.
Ah. He's a good-looking sort. You know, if he was 10 years older, I'd have him myself.
Now, Mrs. Lachlan, you've made certain admissions in regard to Aboriginal relics previously in possession of Colonel Thomas.
I stole them. Well, I stole them from the thieves who took them in the first place.
Mrs. Lachlan, maybe we should...
No, I think we should have a trial. And I think I'd like that very, very much.
I take it you intend to press charges?
That's really up to you, sir.
Well, I don't think people should be allowed to get away with this sort of thing. Agreed?
If you want to press charges, then we'll press charges.
You don't agree?
It's entirely up to you, sir.
Do I detect an undercurrent of disapproval?
No, sir, nor an undercurrent of approval either. I'm just stuck in the middle, trying to do my job.
No man's land, eh? Caught in the crossfire.
It sometimes seems very like that, yes.
Excuse me, boss. PJ just asked me to let you know that while we're waiting for the solicitor from the Aboriginal Legal Service, we've been having an informal chat with Mrs. Lachlan.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, she's been extremely cooperative. She's looking forward to the trial. Well, she thinks that when she and her family are tried for the theft, that it will be of great interest to the media. Television, newspaper.
Yes, I know what the media is, Doyle.
Yes. Anyway, she's looking forward to the opportunity of talking about the history of certain families in Mount Thomas.
If she tells lies about my family, I will sue her.
Sir, it's her own family that she wants to talk about.
Thanks for apprising us of the situation, Doyle. Keep us posted.
This is blackmail.
You tell them?
Yep.
And?
They took it on board.
I don't know what you're grinning at.
Oh, don't you? You're quite a woman now.
See? He's mine now. You lost your chance.
Oh, well.
Miss Drew, you got a moment, please?
Excuse me.
Yep. Here. $5 says they're cutting a deal.
Oh, mate, no bet.
Smooth? $5 says they're cutting a deal, mate. No bet.
The Colonel's prepared to drop the charges relating to the trespass and the illegal removal of his property, providing the charges relating to the artefacts are also dropped. You surely couldn't want Mrs. Lachlan to go through a trial.
She's tougher than both of us put together. OK, the artefacts go back to the traditional owners and the burial site's protected.
The artefacts, yes. But the land is mine to do with as I wish. However, out of respect for the man who was a warrior protecting his country, I'll preserve it myself.
with guaranteed access to his people?
Yes.
Righto, I'll talk to the mob about it and I'll let you know. If they agree, fine.
Told you.
I'd like to thank you
Perfectly all right.
for not forcing me to tell the world that we're related. Come on, you mob. We haven't got all day.
Come on, Lionel. Work to do.
Doyle. In here? Sit down. Yesterday I had occasion to talk to you about your attitude.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to see it had some effect.
Well, it did.
It doesn't get any easier, Maggie. When I was a young copper, younger than you in fact, I had to accompany the welfare department on raids on Aboriginal settlements.
So you had to help take kids away like Michaela's mother?
Oh, come on, I'm not that old. But yes, others. Look, it was the law at the time and government policy. Now, I could either carry out my oath or leave the service. I'm glad things have changed a bit. But we all of us have to make choices like that all the time, don't we?
Yeah, I understand that.
Good. Why don't you go and tell Cooper to get us all some breakfast?
Burger with a lot.
Well, some things never change.
Oh, and, boss, after that, you'll be off to the hospital to get that shoulder checked.
Susan's been in your ear again, hasn't she? Go.